Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this is where I break the whole concept of the what's wrong with. What's wrong with, as I mentioned before, is just a lazy way to title videos. I spend a lot of time on the videos for my main channel, coming up with imaginative, enticing video titles, and this I just say what's wrong with and then talk about whatever I watched. So usually when I do this, it's, I just finished a franchise, like I'm rewatching all of the Matrix movies right now. I'm on the third one. And then I'll do what's wrong with the entire Matrix trilogy. So this is Mission Impossible. And I do not need to go rewatch anything because I have seen some of these movies dozens of times. Even the one that I don't really like that much, I've seen at least 6 times. So as pretty much everyone knows, Tom Cruise got the rights to revive Ethan Hunt, or Mission Impossible, in the mid-90s. He turned it into the Ethan Hunt show, and then he didn't, and then he did, and then he didn't. I've loved it since the beginning. I literally remember the theater. I saw the first one in San Diego. It was in La Jolla, I believe. It was a lot of fun. It was Brian De Palma. I liked it a lot. And then they totally switched gears for the second one, John Woo. And then they switched gears again, third time, J.J. Abrams. And from the time of the second movie, now, if you remember when the first one came out, they said franchise, but it wasn't sure. They were like hedging their bets. If it would have been a moderate hit, it just would have been a one-off. But it was enough to get a sequel 4 years later for the second one. And this is a weird franchise. Like, it's not like, for James Bond, most of them had an average of like 2 or 3 years in between them. This one once went 6 years in between having a sequel. So I thought about this earlier today. And first of all, I was like, bro, you gotta recuse yourself. Like, you stand too much for the Mission Impossible franchise. You just do. It's like you're not objective at all. And I absolutely love it. And then my critiques are literally, they just got better over time. One thing I think I would say actually is wrong with it, that they have dealt with, but I feel like they need to lean more into it, is that, in the first one, if you go rewatch the first one, Ethan Hunt, he has good balance and I guess good core strength, but he's more of just a generic secret agent who's just like a little bit smarter than the people he's going up against. Yeah, there are some stunts that are effectively impossible, no pun intended, but he's not the guy he became in the second movie where he's basically Batman. So they have him as kind of like a regular, beginning field agent in the first one. They skip 4 years, he's Batman. Then they skip 6 years and he's an instructor. He's teaching at the academy. And then finally in, I believe, the fifth one, like they literally comment on like, he's the living manifestation of destiny. And at one point when they like name this completely ridiculously difficult task, like nobody is worried except for him. Now it's just a little bit, but it's there. And that's one of those things that they did. Now, because again, you might not remember, but the first one was a solid movie. People had some issues with it, but not much. The second one was most people did not like it. The third one was kind of eh. And then there was like a while, for the fourth one. And then people kind of liked that more. And then the fifth one, people really liked. Sixth one, people just went insane. So you got a franchise going over like 25 years that's getting better, more successful, I'm assuming more profitable. And it's really raising the bar. Now, they've already filmed the 7th one, and I think they're going into the 8th one, but those both got pushed back like a year each. So, it's the whole thing. It's like, oh, he's getting old. He's 60, but it's like, he looks like he's 40. So this was my epiphany that made me make the video earlier today. When they were filming the 6th one, he did a jump, fairly moderate stunt. And this tends to be where like Jackie Chan, they get hurt at like the moderate stunts. So he jumps, he hits the wall, he breaks his leg. Then they stopped filming for like 3 or 4 months. It's a huge deal. And then of course they had to stop for COVID and all that stuff. Here's the deal. I have listened to the director's commentary with Chris McQuarrie for the fifth one and the sixth one. It's funny. In the fifth one, him and Tom are obviously work peers and they have a good relationship. Somewhere in the ensuing years between the fifth movie and the sixth movie, they actually become friends. And you can totally hear it in the way they interact. It is a vast difference between the fifth commentary and the sixth commentary. Both have Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise on them. But all of the ones that Chris McQuarrie has been involved with, they have constant rewriting. Like literally on the set. Like at the hotel, you're writing the scenes for the next day. And there's even one of my favorite speeches is at the end of the fifth one. They're at this cafe and Benji has a bomb strapped to him. And I noticed it was a little different. I really, really liked it. And then they're like, I'm reading cue cards for dialogue that was just written that I did not have time to memorize. And I was like, wow, they are really just, I love that they can turn on a dime. And here's the deal. When Tom Cruise gets injured, which he's going to do more as he gets older, don't take a break for 3 months. When they have COVID, don't take a break for 6 months. Write it into the story. Now, I know most movies are shot out of order, but if this is possible, this is what I would do. And I think this would be one of the coolest things ever. He breaks his leg. You write that into a story. He has a team. By the way, when you break your leg, you're not in a full body cast. You're not in a wheelchair. When I was in the Marine, we went on something called the Macress. It's this 26-mile hike that's mandatory for a unit to be deployable. And my foot fractured somewhere around mile 18. And people used to say, it's like, well, why didn't you tell them? It's like, they would have been like, okay, yeah, you just got like 8 more miles and then you can rest, which is what happened. You can still function when your foot is broken. So you rewrite it on the fly. And so he can observe from the crowd. He can do little gambits, little tricks. He can fire a gadget or whatever. And then you have the rest of the team pick up the slack. When all of a sudden you have COVID and everyone's got to wear masks, well, shit, you just made it a lot easier to swap in stuntmen. So you write that into the story. The terrorists released the freaking VX nerve gas light, whatever it is, and you write it into the story. This is something that you get a lot of mileage out of and will help you, because I don't think Tom Cruise, this is another one of those things that people forgot about. He didn't used to be the franchise guy. Not at all. He was like, I want to do like an art movie, and then I want to do this kind of drama, and then I'll do some courtroom stuff, and then I'll do kind of an action movie, but not really. It's a racing movie. And then when he dipped in, it was like, oh, that's weird. And he was still young, but it felt like he was old because he had been in movies and he had done so much stuff that when he did Mission Impossible, it's like, isn't this kind of like a step down? But he grew it over decades. He's late 50s right now. Everyone's like, oh, he's getting too old. Honestly, he could do this shit for 20 more years. But you got to adjust to his age. And if you got someone like Chris McQuarrie, who's such a great collaborator, just start doing that. If he's dating an actress while they shoot and they break up, write that into the movie. We've literally seen Tom Cruise read off of cue cards and give a really great performance. The only thing I just noticed it was a different performance. He has these patterns and these tricks and these go-tos that he likes to use, and I just noticed the performance was different. So when they revealed that it was the one scene where he was literally reading cue cards, you're like, that makes sense. So this is different than my usual what's wrong with franchise videos, because it's hard to quantify it. It's changed so much over 25 years. It seemed to have settled into a groove in the last couple ones. I literally want it to go on forever. I love this franchise so much. It seems like Tom Cruise does as well. That's a real bonus. As much as people love Fast and the Furious, I still remember when Vin Diesel thought he was too good for it and left. Remember that shit? Remember? There was 2 movies he wasn't there. And it was just 8 years of it just spinning its wheels, no pun intended. And then he came back, and it was good, but it was good because they kept adding in other people. This latest one, I don't know a single person who saw it. You can't add, or you can't subtract Paul Walker, add The Rock, add Jason Statham, and then spin them both off. Then it's just freaking Vin Diesel and his middle-aged, stereotypical comedy sidekicks. I have no intention of ever watching Fast and Furious again, but I will watch every freaking Mission Impossible forever. And yeah, you transition him to be the leader of IMF when he's in his late 60s. He can do action movies for another 10 years, and he can be the leader in action movies for another 10 years after that. But different format. It's more of just me. I actually saw this where someone was like, on TikTok, they're like, this is how I would have written, what do you call it? And Just Like That. And while some of the ideas were good, one of them was like, Samantha dies of COVID. And I was like, I know, like, it doesn't take place in a world with like superpowers, but I still don't consider the world that Sex and the City exists in to be like the real world. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'd be fine if like the Iraq War never happened. So like saying like Samantha died of COVID, that's like saying Aiden died at 9/11 with a freaking steel beam fell through his head. Like, it's a little too real for Sex and the City. So, but again, obviously this is kind of a different format. This is basically fanfic. But when I thought of this idea of writing in injuries into the story and then filming them, in writing in world events, in writing in, he's dating what's her name from Captain America, and then they break up, but she's going to be in the next movie. Write that in. Write it in. Chris McQuarrie, you are very talented. What did I say? Very I'm sitting in my neck's compressed. That's why I'm talking weird. You are very talented. You can do this. Absolutely. Thanks for watching. Bye.